Picture this. You've got a perfectly stable, happy marriage of 8 years, and then you just throw the whole shebang away for a total mirage. And the payoff? Literally nothing. Welcome to this explainer, you guys. Today we're unpacking a wild, shocking case study in human behavior. It's all about hubris and how a series of incredibly arrogant choices can, well, absolutely nuke a life from orbit.
We're actually going to kick things off right at the climax of our source material. The quote you're seeing, that's from a husband peering through his front door peephole at his newly destitute ex-wife. She's standing there crying, begging for a place to sleep. It is a super harsh, highly emotionally charged moment, but man, it perfectly sets the stage for the absolute train wreck we're about to analyze.
Because at this exact moment, she had lost absolutely everything. She is face to face with the brutal reality of her own choices. And in this twist of profound irony, the only place she can even think to go is crawling back to the doorstep of the very guy whose life she had arrogantly blown up just a short time prior. So how on earth did she go from a comfy, married life to literally begging on a doorstep? Let's dive into it.
Part 1. Red Flags and Men's Perfume.
Okay, let's hit rewind and see how this disaster actually unfolded. So for 8 years, this marriage was completely solid, happy even, but then things just kind of went off the rails. Out of nowhere, the 35-year-old wife abruptly quits her job. Her excuse? She claims she needed to write a book. Right. So this sudden move forces the husband to take on all the household bills, mortgages, car payments, you name it. But the real kicker, the absolute glaring red flag, was when she came home one evening smelling distinctly of men's cologne. She tried to brush it off, claiming she was just testing scents at a store, but come on, the scent was unmistakably masculine. The husband trusted his gut here, and he immediately hired a private investigator.
Which brings us to part 2, gathering the undeniable proof. So the PI follows her, does his thing, and eventually hands over this devastating envelope of photos. Now, at first, there were just some ambiguous shots of her walking with a guy. But then the husband found the smoking gun, clear as day photos of his wife kissing this mystery man outside a bar. You can really feel the heartbreak in that quote. His entire reality, a reality built on over a decade of trust, just instantly shattered right there in that investigator's office. Now, you really gotta look at the stark contrast between her lies and the reality he uncovered by checking her phone. It is mind-blowing. She claimed she was writing a book. Yeah, she hadn't typed a single word, not one. She was acting like she had upgraded to this wealthy, high-powered consultant, but her messages proved she literally met this guy who goes by Ryan just randomly on the street. And instead of these sophisticated business dates she bragged about, she was just accepting cheap public hotel invites for hookups. It was a completely hollow affair.
Moving right along to Part 3. Confrontation and Strategic Divorce.
All right, so armed with this irrefutable proof, the husband finally confronts her. He literally hands her the photos, and he actually tries to calmly warn her. He tells her, look, Ryan doesn't love you. He's just using you. And her reaction? Guys, it is chilling. Instead of showing even a tiny ounce of remorse, she lets out this literal evil laugh. No way, right? She starts boasting that Ryan is so much richer and that she would never need a job or a husband ever again. Just sheer, unadulterated arrogance. But here is the brilliant strategic takeaway from the actual divorce proceedings. The husband hires a total shark of a lawyer, and this lawyer doesn't just argue their case, he completely neutralizes her. By proving she quit her job in bad faith, remember those 0 pages of her so-called book? The lawyer totally defeats her request for standard alimony. So instead of the husband being chained to her with monthly checks for the rest of his life, they negotiated a clean break. She just walked away with a one-time lump sum payout of the house equity.
Part 4. The Ultimate Investment Scam.
Okay, so she got her money, and she had her freedom. But that massive upgrade she kept bragging about? Yeah, it's about to turn into dust. 95%. Let that sink in for a second. She willingly handed over a staggering 95% of her entire divorce settlement to her affair partner, Ryan. He apparently pitched her this super vague business deal to be a silent partner, and she just blindly fell for the whole thing.
Let's break down how incredibly fast this builds into an absolute catastrophe. Step 1, she wins that massive lump sum of house equity. Step 2, she invests, basically all of it, with Ryan. Step 3, Ryan, a guy whose real name and address she probably didn't even know, by the way, just completely vanishes into thin air, ghosted, which leads directly to Step 4, immediate, undeniable homelessness. Which brings us to our final section, Part 5, Karma and the Final Door.
This unbelievably rapid downfall brings us full circle right back to our starting point. She literally went crawling back to her ex-husband's house, and not just once, 4 separate times. She was crying, admitting she couldn't access any money whatsoever, and just begging to sleep in his guest room. When he firmly rejected her and told her to go find a hotel, she shockingly tried to blame him and actually got angry. Can you believe that? But he held his ground. He knew he wasn't responsible anymore. She was finally facing the unshielded consequences of her own deliberate actions. And our source notes, she looked physically worse with every single visit.
She traded a solid, loyal partnership for a total mystery guy with a cheap hotel key and a slick sales pitch. And the end result? No husband, no job, no money, and absolutely no Ryan. It is such a stark, wildly expensive lesson for all of us in how not to blow up your life through pure hubris and deceit. Sometimes you really just need to recognize the immense value of what you already have. We're going to end this explainer with a final, really provocative question pulled right from the essence of this whole saga. It's one of those scenarios that makes you reevaluate boundaries, right? If you were in the husband's shoes, looking through that peephole at the person who completely betrayed you and then lost it all, are you opening that door? Or are you pretending you're not home and leaving it locked? Honestly, it's a lot to think about. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope you walk away with some fascinating new insights today.